with the tools to create a new world. The New Athens, the blockchain think tank, brings you those tools to understand the chaos swirling around us and the forum to debate how a new generation will take control from the Govidiots currently mismanaging our nation and our world, with a breakaway civilization leaving us behind. Watch our Friday Night Lights live stream from the bunker on the New Athens YouTube channel for the best that is thought and said on the issues of the day. Ask not what the New Athens can do for you. Ask what you can do for the New Athens. If you like it, leave a like. If you like the content, please subscribe and share. I'm Lorenzo Mefsud, founder of the New Athens. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Good evening, and welcome to the New Athens, live from the bunker. I'm Lorenzo Mefsud, founder of the New Athens. Very pleased to have you with us, and with us tonight are our friends of the show, long-term friends of the New Athens, Christabel Milbank, PR guru, singer-songwriter. We premiered one of her original songs about current affairs last night on the show with our show with Ed Mierzer and Dan Kalupski, looking at both live music and geopolitics and gold and the Bank of England and how to get an education when you are doing work, when you're listening to audiobooks while you're working on something else with your hands, or even going cycling on a bike or taking transport. It's a good way to get educated. With us tonight, Christabel Milbank.
Hello.
And Rob Selby.
Yeah, Robert James Selby. Yeah.
Robert James Selby.
Esquire.
We've been here today in the bunker, and we've been improving the infrastructure as ever for the New Athens. And tonight we thought we'd see our friends and we have a little bit of a bohemian show. I think what we should first do is listen to the track from the other day again, and then we get into the mood.
Beautiful.
So I'm just going to find it here. Do you want to find it, Ollie, or should I? I can find it here. Tell
us about it. What's the song about?
Yes. Tell us about the man in Dallas holding a sword like in a marching band. Is that Ollie Nelkin of Mornington Media? Is it Donald Trump, or is it Alex Jones?
It's whoever you want it to be, I think. The whole song was just, I guess, inspired by the current times, the riots and the COVID pandemic, as you call it. And it's just a bit about I suppose the main kind of message is just how those in power are, are quite happy to let it happen. I guess just like in the 1960s, all of the countercultural movements got reabsorbed by the government and used for their own purposes.
We looked only the other day in our Emperor's New Clothes podcast, where we were talking with Philip about the CIA and how after the Afghan war, instead of burning the poppy fields in Afghanistan, the CIA took over the poppy fields in Afghanistan and started trading those drugs. Mm-hmm. So they're using them on the black market to keep the American people depressed and keep them latched on to the destruction of those substances.
Yeah. It's like spilling beer, though, that, isn't it? Alcohol abuse.
Exactly. And what are the legal drugs? The legal drugs are tobacco and alcohol, because they know how to profit from them. They also know how to profit on the black market from what we see as legal as opium, as we discussed in the opium meter. So we're drinking beer tonight. Reach for the stars in Artois. And we, as Oscar Wilde said, we're all in the gutter.
We're not plugging
Some of us
it,
are looking
are
at
we?
the stars. And here we go. I think this may be. Yeah, I think this might be the.
So yeah, all countercultural movements get reabsorbed.
I'll bring a bottle of white wine next time.
So here we go. We're going to start Christabel's song. Here we go.
Molotov cocktails light up the skies. Their faces are covered, but there's fire in their eyes. Glut of rubber bullets batter both sides. Heather was a hero in Dallas who wields his sword like in a marching band. Blood'll be raining down tonight. Blood'll be hailing tonight. And all they say is let the old ones die. Let the young ones cry. Cry. Let them cry for the ones who died.
So you know, in Boris,
Cars and fire, there's no driver
unfortunately,
inside.
some
He's dressed up
the
in
older
a hoodie
generation
to
will
see what he
die.
can
And
inside.
it's just like with the riots, you know, some people will die. I don't think they really care.
No, I mean, as we've seen, we've featured on the show the really harrowing videos of Cameron Carl-Sedell, the lung doctor in New York, who's been saying that, you know, high pressure ventilation, which they've been using as a treatment for COVID-19, is actually a treatment for pneumonia, and COVID-19 is not a pneumonia, so he had to resign from the ICU.
It's still a lung thing, isn't it?
It is, but it's the wrong treatment. So what he was saying really, really movingly was COVID-19 looks to him as a pulmonary specialist, lung specialist, like hypoxia, which is, you know, like altitude sickness. So what a ventilator, I was really interested to get into this.
You know, the bronchi, you know, little hairs in your
Yes.
lungs, I thought it explodes them, so it makes it bleed.
So that's why
they're putting everyone on like blood thinning tablets that survived it.
So what he was describing, he came in very early. Actually,
that song one I really
why don't we just well, we'll play it again later when we get back into it. But why don't we just listen to him rather than me explaining what he said? Because he's a lung specialist, and he gave this astonishingly moving testimony of what he saw in the hospital in New York just in the first
in
week.
Boris Johnson's hotel room, you know, in St. Thomas's Hospital.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Actually in his room. And being watched by two bobbies as well. But one of Copper's dads, he'd had COVID-19, and it got put on blood thinning tablets because his lungs had been busted.
So what he's saying,
whether it's real or not, and this, that, and other,
what he's saying here, what we can probably do is like put it on the stream, and then we can hear it on here.
Because vessels in
we'll
your
be able
lungs.
to hear it, and I'll just take this. Cameron, here we go. So we do that, and then. If you go, Ollie, yeah, here we go. Perfect. We'll do that, so we can hear it.
This is Dr. Cameron Carl-Sedell,
So I'm just playing it over
doctor
here
from New York City.
on the phone.
9 days ago, I opened an intensive care unit to care for the sickest
In
COVID.
these 9 days, I have seen things I have never seen before. In treating these patients, I have witnessed medical phenomenon that just don't make sense in the context of treating a disease that is supposed to be a viral pneumonia. 9 days ago, I presumed I was opening an intensive care unit to treat patients with a virus causing a pneumonia that was ravaging lungs across the world, starting out as something mild, a cough, a sore throat, and progressively increasing in severity until ultimately ending in something called acute respiratory distress syndrome, or ARDS. This is the paradigm that every hospital in the country is working under. This is the disease, ARDS, that every hospital is preparing to treat. And this is the disease, ARDS, for which in the next 2 to 6 weeks, 100,000 Americans might be put on a ventilator. And yet, everything I've seen in the last 9 days, all the things that just don't make sense, the patients I'm seeing in front of me, the lungs I'm trying to improve, have led me to believe that COVID-19 is not this disease, and that we are operating under a medical paradigm that is untrue. In short, I believe we are treating the wrong disease, and I fear that this misguided treatment will lead to a tremendous amount of harm to a great number of people in a very short time. As New York City appears to be about 10 days ahead of the country, I feel compelled to get this information out. COVID-19 lung disease, as far as I can see, is not a pneumonia and should not be treated as one. Rather, it appears as some kind of viral induced disease, most resembling high altitude sickness. It is as if tens of thousands of my fellow New Yorkers are on a plane at 30,000 feet and the cabin pressure is slowly being let out. These patients are slowly being starved of oxygen. I have seen patients dependent on oxygen take off their oxygen and quickly progress through a state of anxiety and emotional distress and eventually get blue in the face. And while they look like patients absolutely on the brink of death, they do not look like patients dying of pneumonia. I have never been a mountain climber, and I do not know the conditions at base camp below the highest peaks in the world. But I suspect that the patients I'm seeing in front of me look most like as if a person was dropped off on the top of Mount Everest without time to acclimate. I don't know the final answer of this disease, but I'm quite sure that a ventilator is not it. That is not to say that we don't need ventilators. We absolutely need them. They are the only way at this time that we're able to give a little more oxygen to patients who need it. But when we treat people with ARDS, we typically use ventilators to treat what's called respiratory failure. That is, we use the ventilator to do the work that the patient's muscles can no longer do because they're too tired to do it. These patients' muscles work fine. I fear that if we're using a false paradigm to treat a new disease, that the method that we program the ventilator, one based on a notion of respiratory failure as opposed to oxygen failure, that this method, and there are a great many number of methods we can use with the ventilator, but this method being widely adopted at this very moment in every hospital in the country, which aims to increase pressure on the lungs in order to open them up, is actually doing more harm than good. And that the pressure we are providing to lungs, we may be providing to lungs that cannot stand it, that cannot take it. And that the ARDS that we are seeing, that the whole world is seeing, may be nothing more than lung injury caused by the ventilator. Now, I don't know the final answer to this disease. I do sense that we will have to use ventilators. We will have to use a great many number of ventilators, and we need a great many number of ventilators. But I sense that we can use them in a much safer way, in a much safer method. That safer method challenges long-held dogmatic beliefs within the medical community and among lung specialists, which will not be easy to overcome. But I really believe that they must be overcome. There are hundreds of thousands of lungs in this country at risk, and the time to overcome them is now. I'm confident that if those of us that work bedside with these patients, those of us who are witnessing the things that we have never seen before, despite the many years we have worked and the thousands of patients and diseases we have seen, if we can effectively communicate this to all those that are so important but who are not bedside, the researchers, the administrators, those who procure our resources and make our protocols, the politicians, our own governments, if we are able to convince them that this is a disease that is different than anything we have ever seen, I'm confident that an answer can be found, that effective treatment can be discovered, and that a plan to disseminate that treatment can be rapidly deployed, and that tens of thousands and probably hundreds of thousands of lives and lungs will be protected. The time for this is now. We are staring into a future in which a great many of our fellow Americans are going to suffer, not to mention people all around the world. For those who will not suffer directly from this disease, from the terrible human cost of this disease, for those who will not lose a family member or a friend, and there will be a great many number of people who will lose those close to them. But for those who don't, they are still going to suffer from the great economic cost of COVID-19. We are all involved in this future. So I urge you, for those of us, if you are out there, for those who work bedside, I urge you to speak up. We can change this. I thank you all for listening. Please spread the message and stay safe.
So this, are we back on? So
before I say anything,
so
I
this
just
is
wanna say
that was a
if you were
heartfelt
squeamish,
appeal from an
might not-
expert in the field that what he highlights here is something that most people don't know about medicine. That's just actually something that Christabel, in our first show, calling in from the hospital to tell us about the reality of COVID on the ground, showed us with her experience of triage that the hospital provides a protocol to the doctors and nurses that operate in its ICU wards for emergency care. And because of litigiousness, because of doctors and hospitals getting sued, and because of consistency between shifts, the protocol has to be agreed on in advance by all of the medical professionals. So people like Cameron Carl-Sedell are experts in lungs. And what he said was high pressure ventilation seems to be providing exactly the damage to these lungs that is causing the deaths. So he could not, in the ICU, turn the pressure on the ventilator down, because when he went off shift, the other nurses and doctors would turn it back up again. So the protocol gives consistency, and that would kill the patients. So the protocol gives consistency in treatment. But what the care level in the hospital does is it gives you it's called a standard of care. And the standard is the key word, because what it means is that there's not only, it's not key to you, right? So if you're in a medical study, you might get the placebo, and the people that get the placebo, half of them, they die, right? Or they think they're getting the treatment, they're not. And so they have the consequences that are useful for the planning, the strategic planning of the administrators. They want a double-blind trial, so they're going to give half the people the placebo and half the people the real medicine. But each of the ones with the placebo doesn't get the benefit for them uniquely of that treatment cycle. Instead, they have to contribute to the general population. Now, there's a mismatch which he's identifying between your individual outcome as a patient, which is I want to survive, I want my family member to survive, and then the benefit to the protocol of the standard of care. And so this is where the patient advocate comes in, and we've been talking about this a great deal on the show. The family member who's there with you, you're in a hospital bed in extremis, you're in pain, you're suffering, you might be drugged out, you're not there consciously, compos mentis, handling the parameters of your own care. And often, you find that in the protocol is things like separate people from their relatives, and it's dark. But what the ICUs find it be useful, because they can provide all of the care. They don't need somebody talking at them about what else they could do. For instance, hydroxychloroquine and remdesivir, and now you see with blood thinners, different drugs can be given to improve the chances of these people, but they're not being given because they're not in the protocol to be given. The family are kept outside the hospital because it's got plague in it.
That's an important thing, that the family are kept away from it as well.
So they can't manage the care. And so that's what we've been seeing to a great extent. And what he then had to resign, he's taken some of the videos down, actually, we'll find them on different sites later, but he had to resign from the ICU, go back to the ER where he would be a managing doctor. So he was one doctor, one patient. So he can then say, this is the care that patient's going to get. Whereas the ICU, it's on rota because it's 24-hour care, intensive care. And then they have to, they have to keep the protocol going. So he resigned from the ICU, went back to the ER, and then was able to expand with his lower pressure. What talking of the alveolar, Rob, you were talking earlier. So
no, but having listened to that, it's basically giving, because family have to be kept outside hospital
at the moment, yes.
Yeah. So when you can't see what's going on,
yes,
there's like a film, and it's like based on a real story about a doctor back in, like, I don't know if it's 40s or 50s. It's called 10 Rillington Place. It's like a street in like Notting Hill.
Okay.
And it's a guy who pretended to be a doctor who were giving like girls abortions.
Oh, this is like a darker version of Catch Me If You Can.
No, it will giving but because like the husband or the boyfriend, like significant partner, were involved in it, then because obviously it was a bit like after like Victorian age, where like it was frowned upon to have an abortion, but they'd go to him and he'd say, yeah, I can do it. And then it was a serial killer, basically. Well, in basically Notting Hill, and they've even had to change name at street in Notting Hill. It's called 10 Rillington Place. I think the guy was called Ripley or something. But it's because the father were involved in it that it'd say, well, you're just as much responsible at death as I am. And it's basically giving people a license to kill. Do you know what I mean? So you're saying, we have to, administer this like you know, the ventilation thing and whatever else.
and
So,
of course that's a standard.
and then the deaths like signed off as COVID, isn't it? You know what I
Yes,
mean?
yeah, and
And,
so
and the families kept away from it.
Yeah,
but you've signed them in to go to have
we
this,
had
like.
we had videos come out of nurses in America saying, look,
Do you get what I mean? Like
the
coloration
hospital
with that. It
gets
sounds such a far-fetched thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. The
Like,
hospital
it's
gets
fucking-
$39,000 in America. They've had this, and there've been some nurses who've been whistleblowers have been talking about.
And so
this.
you'd be scared to like say anything because you'd be
Yes.
say, well, you're just as responsible as me, and that's what they were doing to all these fucking women.
So
you know
what
I
you
mean?
see, what you see with these nurses in these videos is they've been saying, look,
Well, that's
the
happening on a mass thing,
the
isn't it?
hospitals get $39,000 of funding from the federal government for a COVID death.
Here's the treatment.
Because they're not treating anything else in the hospital. These are
Yeah.
private hospitals in America, and so they need to stay profitable. And so if they
Right.
can label anything as a COVID death, even with like it's attached to rather than caused by, and there's this notion of COVID related. Like I was looking
They're
at there was
signing
an
everything off
article.
as it, aren't they? You know what I mean?
There was an
So no
article
wonder why-
in the New York Times only a couple of weeks ago saying that in America, most of the COVID patients get COVID as a secondary infection
Yeah.
in the hospital,
Mhm.
having been admitted for something else.
You would, don't you?
And so these are
if you
people,
get
these
put
are
on
where
a
the,
COVID ward,
this is where the pre-existing conditions come in. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
so what he was saying was very interesting was that these people, the high pressure ventilation pushes the air into the lungs,
Mm.
and what that
It's
replaces
licensed to kill,
is the
isn't it, though?
intercostal muscles in your chest, in your ribs, in your chest. They're too tired with pneumonia to actually continue breathing, and so
Right.
the air's forced in, and then the alveoli inside the lungs can
little
take
hairs
up
on your
the
bronchi,
oxygen.
innit? That's what
Can take up the oxygen because it's been pushed in. What he's saying is, this looks like hypoxia, this looks like altitude sickness. What that means, I looked into it. What that means is that the lungs can still breathe. He says that the
But the
chest
blood's
is still
getting in.
working.
It's like
so the blood.
that's how
the blood
TB
oxygen,
works, isn't
the
it?
blood oxygen barrier
It's
is
like,
not accepting the oxygen. So you can force more and more and more oxygen down
you're
the
not
hole.
getting oxygen into
And
bloodstream.
if the bloodstream doesn't accept it, which is the problem that you're seeing with COVID,
Yeah.
then you can force more
So
and
your
more and
lungs
more,
are fine, aren't they,
then
to
you'll
put oxygen into
then you'll
blood?
injure their lungs. The amount you're forcing in to try and get it across this
Right.
blood oxygen barrier, and so
you know when you get a
Brutality.
syringe, when you get
Yes,
well, you know when you get a
exactly.
syringe, and
Forcing
it's just
more and
it's
more.
just oxygen and a syringe.
yes,
It's more dangerous than having like any kind of drug because
So-
if you just got pure an air bubble, and that's exactly what that is, isn't it?
so Florence
fucking doctor,
Nightingale,
but that's
Florence Nightingale was operating in the Crimean
Good
War,
looking bird, I've heard.
and she was actually. There's often these sort of mistakes in medicine, so they just innovated isolating oxygen, and so they had these oxygen, literally oxygen tents. This is when oxygen tents started. So they had people injured in the Crimean War.
Mhm.
They brought them into the tent, and they've saturated the tent. Of course, the air it flowed out, but they saturated the tent with oxygen, and then all the nurses were treating them inside, and that's where the Nightingale nurses came from. But what they didn't realize was the unfortunate side effect of
She
this
did a lot of damage though, didn't
was that when you're
she? Not many people know about.
when you're unconscious, your body uses the cue
Sorry, Florence.
of the CO2 in the air that you breathe in as the cue that you've got to breathe out again. So what these patients did, they thought, okay, oxygen heals people. We're going to saturate as much oxygen as possible in this tent. The unintended consequence was when they went unconscious, they died. And the reason was that your lungs only breathe out. Okay, you can, when you're conscious, it's fine. Your homeostasis in the brainstem only breathes out in reaction to perceiving the nitrogen and carbon dioxide that comes in the air that's not the oxygen in the lungs. And they say, okay, you've got to expel some gases now. And so you breathe out. And that's why you breathe out when you're unconscious. Now, what they did was they were trying so hard to cure them with oxygen that once they went unconscious, they died because their chests didn't compress and they would breathe out, and they didn't have ventilators. They didn't know about compressions of chest. And so by trying to treat better, they managed to kill off all these people because they didn't have the ability. The body doesn't register the need to breathe out if you've got.
So what you're saying,
If it-
Lambert and Butler or Benson and Hedges?
So
There we go in.
we're seeing.
I know fuck all about medical stuff though, innit?
It's interesting. We've had to become experts in recent weeks in various topics. So epidemiology, lung medicine suddenly have become important to people. I know you were in the hospital. If you want to tell the story, like
how did you perceive? Like, you went to Verbier. Let's start with Verbier.
Okay, well, I went to Verbier on a little ski trip just after everything started, and I think I hit quite a few hot spots where
On the slopes. Black
where
Rans.
no hot spots, restaurants and nightclubs where there was a lot of coronavirus.
It's
Apparently,
been
it
well
was that
documented,
weekend.
hasn't it?
Yeah, it was. The
They
weekend of
did some
infection.
tracing of like that
Yeah.
cluster.
What an
And
hotspot.
and when I came back, obviously, a couple of days later, I came down with the virus.
What kind of period was this? March or April?
This
Was
is March.
March.
I think it was
Yeah,
March.
it was
the
before the
8th,
lockdown because we
before the
spoke on the
lockdown,
phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
And-
she went to fucking thing, didn't you? At races or something.
Oh yeah, I did go to. I came back to.
Oh, you went to
Go on, sorry,
I
I'm
came back
cutting
to
you off.
London, and then I hit Cheltenham Ladies' Day.
Ah,
Go on,
which was
I'm
the
cutting your story.
supposed moment when there was lots of contact.
Yeah, so potentially I was a super spreader. Who knows? But the
You
point
heard
is,
it here first, people.
the point is that when I came down with it,
It's called being social.
It's true,
the ambulance came for me quite a few hours after I called them. I was completely delirious.
So this is from Redcliffe to
Yeah,
around the corner.
from Chelsea. And I was expecting to be either tested in the ambulance or taken somewhere to get tested, right? Went to the ambulance. They registered a high temperature of 39 degrees.
Okay,
No,
so-
wait, yeah, 39
39
It
degrees,
is significant,
Yeah,
though. That.
significant.
It's
High
not, you only need a
temperature,
couple of
very, very high
degrees. It's
heartbeat.
massive, that.
etc.
Did you
And
get the
From
cough?
37.
I had the cough.
Did you have loss of
Afterwards,
taste and
I
smell?
lost my sense of smell
Okay.
a couple of days later, just kind of overnight. It's
Mm.
crazy. I got a bottle of Vicks and like trying to smell anything.
Yeah.
Nothing, absolutely nothing, not even the faintest thing, which really freaked me out. But anyway, so I was in the ambulance with a very nice guy, and he was,
Did you get his phone number?
yeah, no, and they were talking me through it. They're like, right, we can take you to the hospital and you can get tested. It will probably take about 4 hours, or you seem to have kind of gone through the worst of it.
This
maybe
is
you
when
can
they
go
were still
home.
trying to do contact tracing in Britain.
Well,
in the
before
first
any of this
instance.
Yeah.
crap, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Before anything.
And they said, it's up to you. They're not going to be able to treat you. You're not,
I see
dying.
you ready. Yeah.
but
Yes.
we'll take you there. We'll do the test in the ambulance, and then we'll take you back. It will take about 4 hours, and I thought, well, I may as well get tested, so
Yeah.
that I know.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one of the major things
I've
about
had
the
COVID
virus
tests.
is the paranoia and the fear that really gets to you. And you just kind of want to know if you have it. They're not knowing the whole thing. So I said, yeah, let's go. Anyway, we went, and then they ended up taking me out of the ambulance into some wards at the back of Chelsea Westminster, which is a fantastic hospital. I've had really good experiences there, but in this time I didn't.
Shares in it. We like Stella as well.
Raging
so-
Bull.
Yeah, we like stuff in Charles. But this time I didn't have the best experience because went in, I was put into a ward, which is absolutely freezing, and I'd had a high temperature, but suddenly I'm like, having a fever in a really freezing place. And I
Was this the one on Fulham Road, or was it the one down on?
Fulham Road.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was just kind of there, obviously freaking out, and they put me on a drip. And the nurses came to me. They weren't wearing any masks or anything. And I said, aren't you frightened that you're going to get the virus? And they said, well, we're hoping that you won't cough on us. Okay. You can't help it if you cough on
Yes.
somebody, especially when you're in the middle of
An
that kind
extremist.
of.
You're not.
But it was
Yeah.
before any paranoia, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Before
it was
it even
early
hit.
March.
Might have hit in Italy and that, but before
Yes,
any of that.
yeah.
But I was very paranoid and very well aware of everything. Anyway, so they said, have you taken paracetamol? And I said, no, I haven't taken any paracetamol. Right. Refuses to take paracetamol.
It was yes. Oh, we were talking about notes earlier. We were talking
right,
about
hold
It's
on
the
a
lowest
second.
temperature, isn't it? That's
Hold
the
on a second,
thing
I
you
have-
should
Yes.
do, isn't it?
Yes, but it's that kind of responsibility that's put on you. Like you've come in and like you've refused to take paracetamol. Like, no, I'll take some if you give it to me. I just haven't taken any. They put me on a drip that lowered my blood temperature, and they took a scan of my lungs. A chest X-ray. I think all was good. They asked me a few questions about drugs and so forth, which I think were all routine. And then afterwards, they said, "So, are you going to test me?" And they said, "Oh no, Boris has actually stopped that now." And I was like, "What?" But they told me in the ambulance that I was coming to get tested. And they've been misinformed. They don't know. They don't know about the new rules.
the EMTs are different. Yeah.
I mean, come
yeah.
on, everybody should be on the same page, It's not that difficult just to send an email out or something to everybody. But anyway, I was like, oh, right. So, have I got it or not? And the nurse said to me, well, you know, we can't actually check if you've got it or not. We can't do a test on you. But from everything, all your symptoms, it's my professional opinion that you probably have coronavirus. That was the exact sentence, verbatim. It's my professional opinion that you probably have it.
Yes.
Which I
When
just
it was a
thought,
legitimate hotspot, wasn't it?
I just think
Like,
that was like kind of like a bit
It's not-
irresponsible.
the main
really-
thing is
it's
how
not
they sent
really,
you
yeah.
home, though,
And
innit?
then that's the next thing she says is, and you're fine to go home on public transport.
Hmm.
I've been promised a ride back.
Yeah.
And I was in my pajamas. I was in pajamas and a pair of hotel slippers. You know, I wasn't, you know, I'm not going walking back. And I felt a bit weird about getting a cab, but that's what I did anyway. And I felt terrible for the cabbie. He picked me up and you could tell that
Oh, shit,
I'd obviously come out of the hospital in my pajamas and slippers. And you know, he kind of, you know, looked at me oddly. I just thought it was a bit strange, the whole thing. But
And then she went to races like 2 days after.
no, I was at the races before. But,
Right, sorry.
yeah, I don't know. I was a bit. It was
No,
a
so
strange. It was a
didn't
strange
know, man.
thing. It was a
So you were
strange
kind of triaged, you were kind of moved about a bit in the system and then spat out again.
As soon as I got in there, I realized I wanted to get out. I started getting freaked out because I was like, isn't there any heating or something? You know, how can you? It was like I'd been put in a porta cabin at the back or something. That, you know, it seemed fine. There wasn't any kind of, you know, chaos or anything.
So we've been talking on the show quite a bit about bodily sovereignty. As we saw, I don't know if you're aware, Rob, but we did a show last week called
Sorry, I'm not playing footsies with you, like.
the Great British Body
What's
Snatch
your matter?
2020. And what that is during this lockdown, you know, there's been a saturation of stories in the mainstream media on this one issue of COVID-19 and the consequences therereof, including like Dominic Cummings' driving habits.
Yeah.
And this is like saturation
It's
of
like
one story.
even bloody like every like TV program they've
I
got
know.
a floating fucking virus thing,
Yeah,
haven't
little
they? Like, you know
little
what I mean?
dagger. And so
Caricature of COVID.
do you
whatever it's
remember?
meant
Do you
to look
remember
like.
in 9/11, one of Blair's spin doctors said it's a good day to bury bad news.
Mm-hmm.
What was
Yeah,
his
he was
name?
fired.
Blair's the
It was-
biggest.
It wasn't Alistair Campbell. It
I was
wasn't.
thinking
It
Alistair.
wasn't Peter Mandelson. It was one of
He's
the. it
getting
was
well
one of the other
involved
guys.
lately as well, isn't he, Alistair
Working
Campbell?
EPR is
So
very
Turning
interesting
up in
during
a
this
fucking
time.
Adidas
So-
tracksuit and that's
Yeah,
it
we'll
looks cool.
definitely get onto this in a moment. But what I wanted to mention was that this has been a good 3 months of
Sorry,
very
Ollie.
bad news, and I wanted to get your opinion, Christabel, as a PR expert
Yeah.
on this. But nevertheless, one of the interesting stories which we missed was during this pandemic, like every global level institution, whether it's the British government, whether it's the BBC, whether it's AstraZeneca, whether it's the Chinese, whether it's some company somewhere, they've all got in their pyramid, in their institutional structure, there'll be a basement somewhere, and in that basement will be a filing cabinet.
We're in it, aren't we?
And then we're in that bunker for us. And so
Fucking up there.
there'll be a filing cabinet somewhere
They're
in a
all up
dusty
there.
corner. And in that filing cabinet, there'll be a drawer, and that drawer will be called like Reach projects. Right, and the Reach projects will be like what we'd normally take maybe 10 years
For
with
dwarf.
loads of like parliamentary inquiries and newspaper
Who's
articles.
buzzing?
and-
Is it you? I've
yeah,
got
it's
car, so I can't.
people
fucking
coming in, people
laying
coming in and
off drugs and
commenting. So yeah, there'll be this filing cabinet somewhere with like Reach projects, things which normally would take 10 years will be
It's a
impossible.
joke
Push
from a
them through
Beatles
now.
film.
So it's a good 3 months to bury bad
Mhm.
news, and one of the consequences of the lockdown has been there's been nobody in the public streets, right? The citizens have retreated behind closed
Mhm.
doors, and so when you have a power vacuum in a space, somebody's going to take it over.
Mhm.
Who's it's going to be the UN? It's going to be China. It's going to be America. It's going to be the government, whatever. And so somebody will fill that vacuum. And there's like it's almost like a decentralized CCTV. We were talking about Orwell earlier. Like it's not CCTV, but people's eyes, like the citizens walking around the streets, mean that the crowdedness of places in public life mean that you can't do nefarious things because somebody's always like around.
It
It's like
kills
walking on it.
kills so many birds with one stone,
And
doesn't it? Look?
so now we've got all the people
Fucking
in their
global warming,
houses,
pollution,
all of these organizations
overpopulation.
can then take those projects, which would have been 5 to 10 years, and
She's
probably
nipping
never,
me saying, let him talk.
probably never achieved, are now available. And
Stephen Byers.
Hmm?
Stephen Byers.
Stephen that was the guy that said it's a good day. Yeah, he was fired. See, he didn't get further in the Blair structure because he
That
said
gave
it's a
him
good day to.
Jaffa
Yeah, Oh, thanks, Luke. He was bearing news on railways that day, but it's Transport Secretary Stephen Byers, and he let on about this Blair PR thing that it's a good day to bury bad news.
Yeah.
One of the sets of bad news that we've encountered here has been, as we've discussed, I don't think I've mentioned it to you, the Great Body Snatch of 2020.
Right.
So Theresa May's government in 2019 passed a bill called the Organ Donor Bill. I need to find the exact legislation.
This does sound fucking nefarious.
So the NHS Organ and Transplant Centre operated an opt-in organ donorship system until this past month. So you would sign up on the website, you get your organ donor card.
But have you seen the Dennis Pennis sketch where he goes in to buy kebabs with his donor card?
So
that's the one, isn't it?
It's
got like 5 donor cards. Like,
can I give a charge back?
One for my mate as well. He's throwing donor cards on fucking kebab shop fucking counter.
What we had was an opt-in system where you sign up, and what they did on the 19th, what they did on the 19th of May this year to you and you. I don't know if you were organ donor.
I've had a COVID test. Well, yeah.
We're talking about donor cards.
So, I got a letter back saying that I were clear of it. So you know.
Day to bury bad news. So what happened was,
I got it this morning.
They
put it up your nose and down your throat.
They passed this bill. They left it for a year, quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the 19th of May at midnight, we all became 65 million people who didn't opt into the organ donorship register.
I'm now an organ donor.
You're now an organ donor. You're now an organ donor. I've de-signed up.
I was being ignorant then, mate. I was fucking half trying to be like a.
So this is the burying bad. This is the burying bad news. So what happened is, right, there was an opt-in organ donor system, which means you sign up on purpose, you get your organ donor card, and then when you die, you can give your corneas to 2 people, lungs to 2 people, depending on the health of the organs and donor register and so on. And blood types and so on. So this was a voluntary system. So, and also your family could give away your organs on your death as well, as long as it's
I agree to all that. Innit?
So on the 19th of May, they switched it over. They made it an opt-out system. So they said 65 million people in this country are now organ donors unless they say otherwise.
Imagine if they did that with everything. Innit?
I've now got the certificate. It's upstairs, and I showed it on the show last
night. That sounds so scripted, me just saying that. Imagine if they did that with everything.
I know, and they just did.
How scripted does that sound? Me just fucking saying that.
So one of the important ideas we have in our society,
it's like you have to sign out. You know what I mean? It's fucked, isn't it?
So we have the link, and I'll leave the link in the show notes.
So who's gonna? It's like even on iTunes, who's gonna read through fucking all that 5 pages of shit to fucking sign?
Here we go.
It's like, can I just listen to a song, please?
Saying, by the way,
you know
if you want to opt out,
yes, So they had. I'll play you the video.
Sounds so cliche to even.
I'm just going to leave the link here in the show notes. It's just gone in now. So what this is, you've got to click on this.
But French knew how to have a revolution
to now have your organs.
English should fucking sit and let that happen, man. The joint queue.
So what we have,
queuing up, saying where do I sign out?
If you
French should be falling Bastille.
So if we go to
sorry, Ollie, if that's
NHS
just like
organ donor.
Can just hear
here we go. So they
Stella
have this
pouring
channel.
down someone's throat.
And so what we can do is I'll play it on here, and then we can hear. I'd like your opinion on this, Rob, because you're a plain spoken man, and you will understand exactly how dark this is, because they made a video. Like they left it for a year, got it really under the radar, and then they had one article came out in the Metro the night that it transferred over from opt out to opt in, opt in to opt out. There was.
Have you tried turning it off and on?
There was one article in the Metro, and then they released this video. So Olive, if you share the screen, then we can play this. Is that cool?
On the ball.
Great.
Across the
so
UK,
here we go.
Someone dies. Every day across the UK, someone dies waiting for an organ transplant. So, from spring 2020, the law around organ donation in England is changing to help save and improve more lives. You will still have a choice if you want to be an organ donor or not when you die. You can choose to opt in or opt out by recording your decision on the NHS Organ Donor Register. Recording your decision on the NHS Organ Donor Register and telling your family what you want are the best ways to help ensure your decision is honoured. Once the law has changed, it will be considered that you agree to be an organ donor when you die, if you are over 18 and you have not opted out and you are not in an excluded group. So you could go on to help patients in need of a transplant. Your family will still be consulted about organ donation. Any questions about the organ donation process will be addressed, including how your faith, beliefs, or culture will be respected. So, remember, whatever you decide, make sure to let your family and friends know. To find out more about your choices and to record your decision, visit organdonation.nhs.uk. The law around organ donation is changing.
What I wanted to
Took us all out on bus
what I
over
wanted
there.
to flag up here was this sentence for you, Rob, and I wanted to get your opinion on it. So if you look here, once the law has changed, it will be considered that you agree to be an organ donor. So you see how tortured that sentence
Wow.
is.
Oh yeah,
It's like
of course,
the reason
I got
why
it
it's
first time
tortured
he
is
said it,
because
and
it's
it's
hard.
fucked, isn't it?
It's hard to express this idea. It will be considered that you agree. Like,
Mm.
so you don't have to agree, but we'll imagine that you have.
Yeah.
And you didn't even know about this until now, right?
No, man.
No, I didn't either.
So
It's fucked,
you got to
yeah.
go on the link. It's in the show
I
notes.
didn't want
And
anybody
like I
to
said, it's
consider
like-
my opinion without me.
Without
actually
you,
fucking
yes,
saying it,
exactly. So
right?
one of the things we've been concentrating on these on this New Athens project
It's like I
has
said about
been
the iTunes, who
consent.
reads 5 pages
Exactly.
and you just
Looking at
click
the
it.
terms
It's like I
and
just want to listen to
conditions.
some
It's
fucking
But they
tunes,
haven't even
innit?
done that. You know, with the iPhone, you've got to click through, and then you've
Yeah,
got to
who
tick.
reads that?
Then you've got to tick I accept and have read and have
it's
read.
Like I've just
And
accepted
then you,
fucking.
but they're saying they're doing that for you while you were sleeping on the 19th of May 2020. They while you were sleeping, they
It
decided.
is a bit
you,
Matrix, isn't it? She'll end up in a fucking fish tank. won't
So and they say they
I
say
reckon
on
just
the,
kill every organ in your body. So
exactly.
It's
We're
not
not
any-
leasing our bodies, and then we have to leave them in the condition that we're expected to when we get them back to state. Then we're going to ruin our. Firstly, we're going to ruin our bodies in any way we want, and
Wow.
second, then they won't even want them.
Exactly.
And then we're going to all sign out. And so one of the projects that we're moving towards.
Christabel's song's bang on though, isn't it? When it
I
goes
know,
on about
really.
like
Yeah,
but the older people, it's like they're not worth shit, are they?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Financially, they're not.
No,
because
that's what I
they're
mean.
not part of the workforce.
And they're not buying
drain on
anything either.
economic
Teenagers, they're not
resources.
of workforce, but they're fucking consumers.
Yes.
Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? So it's like the culling, innit? Like, I'm not a religious fucking
Culling the
person.
herd,
I
yes.
like reading like any like religion and that, but it's like it says the meek will inherit the earth.
Yes.
You know, back in Roman times.
Yes. They were meeting in secret.
No, but everyone like went mental. You know, like Caligula and all like rich people because they had like lead vats, like all they had lead
Yes.
piping and underfloor plumbing,
Yes.
but everything was lead.
Yes.
And so they all had lead poisoning. They couldn't even have kids, and they all went fucking mental. And
So
like,
there's-
all poor people what kept their wine in like wood vats and that,
Mm.
they all like flourished. And
Yes.
it's like the meek
Yes.
will inherit the earth.
Yes, that's very. I didn't
Yeah,
see
I
it
mean,
that
Well,
way.
that's
I
why you
didn't
have
see
with
it that way
all these
before.
people with with their
Romans
their
were mad
shitty
on lead.
phones. They're like, I
Everything
don't want a
was fucking lead.
smartphone.
They had taps with lead.
Yeah.
Like all the wine were in lead vats. But
Yes.
there's lead poisoning. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's why they all went mental and
Yes,
started making their
massacring
horses
one another
fucking
and stuff.
senators
Yes.
and that.
Yes. So no, you're quite right. And often
The
actually,
meek will inherit
So
the
with
earth
this-
eventually.
With this, if you're an
because they're
incredibly
I
less
believe
keyed,
that
they're less
though, man.
keyed into the tech.
And I just
Yeah.
believe that for some weird way, man. I do believe that like the meek will inherit the earth. You know, the people that are I don't know, in tune with, you know, like
nature and slightly more.
you get
innocent to
kids
this world.
these day and age, don't you? That they don't even know where, you know, if you show them a fucking hamburger, they don't know that it comes from a cow.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like
Yes.
it's mental, in it.
Yeah, we've discussed this with Philip
something I
before
reckon
on the
if
show.
something all that mad shit's gonna happen, I think that it'll be something to do with like ignorance that's been drilled into people, so they don't even know like fucking what a carrot is by the time they're fucking 15-year-old. You know what I mean? In another 50 years' time. So all that our son knows is like what Sonic the Hedgehog gets up to. Do you know what I mean?
We're so far from like making we've discussed this before on the show with Philip, who's a stone
No,
carver,
but we're
wood
science
carver.
experiments at
We
this
d- we
point.
don't we're now consumers, and we were discussing this earlier about phones. Like, you can't get into the back of your phone, you can't take the battery out, you don't know when it's recording you, and so on. So we've looked into the infrastructure
Yeah, we are being farmed.
of the human farming of information.
My point, which I actually wanted to talk about, is if you are a very, very healthy individual, what's to stop somebody going, actually, you know what, somebody in power going, actually, you know, I want his organs, send him COVID.
So we discussed this. So we were at the Groucho Club a couple of years ago. We met a young documentary filmmaker. I met a young documentary filmmaker at the Groucho. I don't know if you were there, but he was making a documentary about organ harvesting in China of political prisoners. Falun Gong and so on. We've all seen them outside the embassy with the Epoch Times.
Oh,
and so
yeah,
on.
I'd see all that Falun Gong in Chinatown. They were doing all meditation
they've got
stuff
their
and that
protests
about
and so
it.
on, where
Yeah,
they say, look, we're being harvested. And so this guy, who was a documentary filmmaker, he was in the Groucho, he was making a film about this. And he was looking into, like, they go into the prisons and they take the organs from the political prisoners. And
it's Orwellian nightmare.
in the same building was Conor Misley Lynch, our surgeon. And I spoke to the documentary maker. I then went into a different room and spoke to Conor. Conor looks at scientific papers on epidemiology and on the use of on new testing of organs and so on. He's a kidney surgeon. And so I asked him the question independently of the guy who just told me about this. I said, Conor, what do you make of the Chinese science, the science medical papers that come out of China that are published in the West? And he said, oh, the organ matching is too good. Like, if you look at a Western paper, then what you see is they have the volunteers who are already dying, or they're already really infected.
Okay,
And the organ matching in the Chinese samples
so they're basically
of patients
just taking,
is too
like,
good.
healthy people
They've got that
and
matching too good. And so I then introduced the two, and they spoke to one another, and they verified independently
farming,
the same notion of farming.
It is
And
matrix, isn't it?
So if you look at the Chinese social credit system, which we've been discussing this evening, and
everyone says that's the model, though, isn't it?
So
you know, China's the sounds a bit racist, doesn't it? Saying sesame credit.
So that's what it's called.
I know. It just sounds fucked when you hear it from someone else.
What that is, and this was actually headlined when people were trying to work out what the epidemiological figures for deaths in China might really be. So one statistic they looked at was the number of smartphone numbers in China that were deregistered between April 2019 and April 2020.
That's mad, isn't it?
21 million.
Especially when you said about
million. That's
how, like,
far above the average.
A phone number's basically like a
passport.
What was it you were
It's
saying? Like a social security number.
So in China, what they've done with the smartphone Huawei is they've taken
I've just
wallet.
got one.
They've put it in. They've taken your wallet. They put it in your phone. They've taken your passport. They put it in your phone. They've taken your Weibo, which is your Twitter. They put it in your phone. They've taken your WeChat, which is your Facebook. They put it in your phone. It's like Facebook and eBay at the same time, and Gumtree. And so all of these apps then become keyed not to a Bitcoin address, which is like anonymous, or a burner phone, which you can then choose to change number. Your number is your name, is your passport, is your social security number. And now with the COVID, they've got a red, yellow, green traffic light system as to whether you can go into a public space.
I am not a number. I am a free man.
A free man on the land with the common law. We've been looking at the
thing, it? Prisoner.
in this country.
Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah, no, I've seen some of that. I need to see it properly.
I am not a number. I'm a free man. It's like I will not be filed, stamped.
Yeah, we went to a festival and that. It's called Festival Number 6. It's amazing, man.
Portmeirion, yeah.
It's beautiful. Do you know the architect that built that place?
He was like in the...
He went all over like Europe and I don't know, change subject and whatever. But it's beautiful if you've never been to Portmeirion.
No, I really want to go.
The festival there, Number 6 festival, based on the
and the whole thing is
Patrick McGowan thing.
You know, you're number 6. Okay, well, I am number 2. Who's number 1?
Yeah,
and it's like we want information. Information is all we want, and
that's beautiful.
And it's basically an island where they're. people
You
of
can go there and visit
political
it.
interest are being farmed for information on why they've resigned or why they've done something.
Yes.
They put them all through all these different
So
psychological tests.
it's like an outworking of the 1984 thing
Exactly.
with Orwell.
Exactly. And it's
So-
all about information.
You'd
which is-
like it? Have you never seen it?
I've seen the
Lorenzo?
first episode, and
Only
then I
12
haven't
episodes.
just watched the whole
don't know how you
thing.
can
And I
not.
know I always known that I should.
Christabel got me into it. It's
And
fucking
I know it
amazing,
really
man.
appeals to your aesthetic.
Yeah, I love it.
So one thing I
you'd
want
dig
to
it, man.
talk about in terms of the music was real talent, and I know you two both have real talent. And what I wanted to think
Can
about,
I go and have a slash, mate?
you go
mind?
well.
Christabel can slag me off while I've gone.
Yeah, I do too. Let's just do a bathroom break.
We'll take it inside.
Let's not all piss on one another. So
He looks good, doesn't he, on there?
this is a
camera.
great the color grading. Oliver's got the color grading so nice on this Black Magic now. No, so what I want to say about your track that you laid
Right.
down 2 days ago. Firstly, I was really interested that the first run through, the initial cut was actually so much more pure, and that's the one we've been playing out on the way airways over the past couple of days. But it has that unconscious competence. If I'm not trying to do it, I'm just doing it.
Yeah.
And
I record a lot of songs, and
I know you've done some for us before, and for me.
Well, I mean, when I'm like playing around at home on guitar, that, like, you know, lyrics kind of come out, and I record it as it goes. So I've got lots of recordings where it's like stopping and starting, but I'm just kind of making it up as I go along. And that was almost, it was, you know, I just kind of thought, okay, maybe I should just do a few more verses. But yeah, it was pretty fresh, I suppose.
So one thing which I really was impressed by was I've seen some interesting media in the past few weeks which have shown quite how bankrupt Hollywood.
Did you see that Out of Shadows documentary?
I did. That's
I've been talking about that for years.
That's on a we have, and we've discussed the Tavistock in a minute, which is what I really want to get onto with you. But so one thing I noticed, which I think I'll play actually, it was the what was it? What's the name of the woman that plays Wonder Woman? Israeli woman?
Gal Gadot.
Yeah. So I wanted to play this, which came out very early in the Cockdown scenario.
The most emotionally bankrupt.
No, it's not just emotionally bankrupt. It's also musically incompetent. So what this
everybody's out of key.
yeah.
and it's terrible.
So what you would do with this track is you would, if you were a star, a music TV movie star creating a track of like live stream, what you do is you get a basic MIDI backing track from YouTube, and you'd say, okay, you're doing this phrase of the you guy in your own phone, but here's the backing track so you can key in.
Yeah.
But what you saw with this, and we'll play it in one moment, is that they were so incompetent that they didn't even have the consciousness, without the producers and without the agents and without all of the Hollywood architecture there, that they didn't even have the competence to have a backing track so they remained in tune. So they each started a different
quite
key.
arrogant, actually, because I remember even when
From their
Madonna
mansions saying no possessions.
Well,
you know.
but when Madonna covered Imagine, it was it's a bit of a scandal because it's such a like iconic song that you shouldn't really cover it unless you're an incredibly talented musician and it's coming from the right place.
Are you on about the Imagine song?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
so-
suddenly you have all
Just
these
walked in on
celebrities.
it, I already
I mean,
know
it's
what you're
actually like a bit of a scandal, really.
So if we
Thinking that they
play
can
it-
cover the song that they clearly don't even know how to sing.
Yeah,
John
exactly.
Lennon gave his
So,
fucking
then
central
after-
nervous system up to write
I
a song
know.
like that.
and what we'll hear it, and then
right.
I've got a real clanger for you.
Day 6 in self-quarantine. And I gotta say that these past few days got me feeling a bit philosophical. This virus had affected the entire world, everyone. Doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, we're all in this together. And I ran into this video of this Italian guy playing the trumpet in his balcony to all the other people who were locked inside their homes. And he was playing Imagine, and there was something so powerful and pure about this video. And it goes like this. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try.
No hell below us.
Above us only sky. Imagine all the people
living for today. Yeah. Imagine there's no countries. Yeah.
It isn't hard to do.
Nothing to kill or die for.
And no religion too.
Imagine all the people living for today.
You may say that I'm a dreamer,
but I'm not the only one.
I hope someday you will join us, and the world will live as one.
Imagine no possessions.
I wonder
if
you can.
I can't play guitar once I've had a beer.
So what we saw here was absolute incompetence to an astonishing extent. Now, you two as musicians, and I know and Ollie knows, we're all musicians of various stripes. That what we saw there with this video was such complete incompetence, because they don't have the agents, they don't have the producers, they don't have the editors. They don't have the infrastructure around them. They're just using their phones. And what do they come up with? They come up with crap. Why do they come up with it? Because they aren't talents. They're chosen by the Hollywood machine to be the photo fit of the star. If you think about Fred Astaire, if you think about Ginger Rogers, these people, or if you think about even Cary Grant, these people are circus performers, they're dancers, they're singers, they're actors. They've got such multi-talented people.
Like
and
celebrity for talent, isn't it?
So celebrity without talent. And so what you can see here is what they natively are capable of, without any production, without anybody, without anybody managing them. This is what they come up with on themselves. And music into the live stream and out into the world to get an audience, which then isn't gate kept by the record labels, the producers, the Harvey Feinsteins, who are now all in jail or going to go to jail thanks to Rose McGowan. And so, but what you see with these stars is actually they're often star fuckers. Like what they've done is they've participated in the prostitution system that subsists in Hollywood, and they've been chosen as the photo fit without any native talent.
It's hard to get.
So what I want to talk about with your track that we just played is somebody who's quite knowledge is quite good, who's Lana Del Rey, and I think you blew her out of the water there, because what you combined was original lyrics which are topical, and with original melody, original harmony, and your voice has more coloratura and more ability to change in pitch than her. If you listen to her song, da 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 da, and it just goes on a drone. And it can get monotone. A feeling. It can get this monotone feeling of the destruction of digital society. Of what was the song you were talking about earlier that the guy wrote for her?
Dancing Queen by ABBA.
For Lana Del Rey. Video games. There we go. So it's about video games. It's kind of depressive. The
guy from
and it's meant to still be beautiful behind it. But what you created was beauty and current affairs, melody, harmony, and vocal performance, all with unconscious competence, which is why I was so happy to promote it on the show. I think Rob is going to play us the first song.
I can't really play guitar because
I'll be back in a moment.
Also, I can't play guitar once I've had a beer. It's really weird, isn't it? Lots of people jam out and stuff. I can't when I've had a beer.
Why don't you give us something? I'll be back in a sec.
Robert's the musical genius, not me.
Oh, you wanted me to play a song?
Yeah, really do. I'm back in a moment.
Don't want stage deaf. Do you want to play some lead, Ollie? We've never played together, have we?
This is amazing. This is the first time jam of live stream.
It's just in D. I'll play chords through once.
What do you play?
It's really chilled out song anyway. Can you make guitar there? When the train conductor picks up on your ticket and picks up your suitcase and throws you off there with it, how I think of all the places we might have been. But for now I am content sitting by the stream. There's only so much love the human heart can hold before it bursts its banks and swallows up the soul. Someday I'll go make sense about this dream, but for now I am content sitting by the stream. Solo, Ollie. And when you can't escape the fears in lovers and mothers' eyes, holding back tears forces you to cry. Someday we'll go find the truth about kingdoms upon high, but for now I am content under the sky. Yes, someday we'll go find the truths about so-called kingdoms upon high. For now I am content under the sky. Solo, Ollie.
Bravo, guys.
It's a little nod to Stone Roses.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
To give a nod
That's
to
by the
Stone Roses
stream, Robert
musically,
James Selby.
Robert James Selby, everybody.
Spotify, YouTube.
Crimestoppers.com.
Spotify, YouTube. Crime
So, thank you so much for playing. And this is a good start because what we want to do is we want to get real original music.
Yeah,
in the
beautiful
studio.
host, man. Ollie,
And the
you did a great job, man.
I know he's isn't
And
he
that was
fantastic?
beautiful, man. I enjoyed
First
playing
He
with
can
him.
harmonize. He can harmonize
that is the first time
anything.
we
He's
played
just such
together.
a
It was beautiful, man.
fantastic musician.
I enjoyed that.
And producer. And so, as a producer
Lovely,
and
man.
musician, he's going to then
Sincerely.
bring music into the studio. Starting this coming week, we're going to have we're going to get the
We
piano
try to
down
translate
here.
our sound.
We're going to get better sound
No.
quality, like real studio sound quality. We're going to be mixing properly, and so we're going to get Christabel and Rob back, and we're going to have other musicians like Ed Mirtz, who we saw yesterday, operatic tenor. We're going to
He's a
be
great
like
singer.
punk rock / opera, and then just straight opera. Then we have Philip Fiersoff coming along, who will be playing jazz Bach for us as a live studio band,
Love
much
Philip.
like sort of Colbert or any of these late night shows. And so,
And I'll teach you how to roll a cig on live on air.
so
Cheap
yeah,
tobacco.
that is a legal drug experience. So because it's taxed.
Let me go in my pockets, man.
So no, nor me. So what we want to see here is we want to see a real melting pot of different musical genres. And then we're going to have live art here. We're going to have live painting. And as we expand, as we like re-expand back into the whole of the New Athens community, as we come out of this lockdown, as we explore the potential of this new medium that we found in YouTube.
You're on a level, mate. That's the main thing.
And what we can do is we can bring all of the best of whether it's current affairs or whether it's then the music that reflects on that and then speaks to that artistically. And so, I really want to be creating art alongside creating culture, alongside creating understanding. And so I think it's at least something that we've found today. The other thing we're going to be doing is Cristobal and I are going to be doing a massive PR push in the coming week, and we're going to be filming new ads and clipping together new kinds of documentary experiences. So one of the things what we've been trying to in these live streams so far show you and show the world.
You've got enough apps.
Oh yeah, I know it's Android on acid, literally.
Fucking hell, man! It's like Tetris.
It's like Candy Crush on.
Yeah. So you've got what is interesting is exploring the app universe, and then we can find. We've been recommending apps actually, whether it's Voice Aloud Reader, which can give you books on tape, and you can listen to them while you're cycling or while you're traveling or while you're working. As long as you have that consciousness that you tune into an audiobook. Ed was saying last night with his theory of education that as a master gilder, he creates and restores ancient picture frames. When he's gilding, he can then listen to an audiobook and educate himself because he's got the unconscious competence of like being able to do the technique.
It's an amazing thing.
Then you can, once you've mastered it, you can then have your brain functioning on an intellectual level, listening to either current affairs or an ancient text or like it's
interesting
novel.
To find out what artists listen to what music while they're painting.
I can send you Ed's primer on like getting a classical education, and you're very
artists
well
listen to certain music.
If you look at Chronicles, Bob Dylan's autobiography, he gives a reading list of what when he arrived in New York in 1961,
Damien Hirst listens to Fall or something, don't
you? What was it? My father loved that. The typical English, concentration on the wrong
Peter
problem.
Blake listens to certain. Sorry, man, I'm cutting you.
No, go wild. That's that. We're here for a conversation. We don't need to be.
Can you teach me how to do a bow tie?
Yeah, it's like shoelaces. Honestly, it's like shoelaces on your face.
You'll have to show me on another thing. But
so we'll go.
Shoelaces on your face. Lorenzo's moustache.
Shoelaces on
perfectly.
Cristobal will show you how to do a posh
stripes and baby wipes.
Stripes and baby wipes. Well, we should play it. Let's play it.
Oh no, please!
Yeah.
No. I will do a live performance of pinstripes and baby wipes.
Okay.
If you
this is quite a show favorite.
I will do a live performance.
Okay. We won't show it here.
I'm cutting him up. He's doing an amazing job, Lorenzo.
So
Ollie's all up. Everything's bang on.
So one thing we've been trying to achieve is like showing you all the different ways we can use this platform. And you can come here, you can call in on Zoom now, as we had Laura Arton yesterday, our correspondent, and you're calling on Zoom, live video, in video, out anywhere in the world. If you're anywhere in the world, you've got some news or something interests you, come call into the show. We also put out the WhatsApp number in case you have WhatsApp and you want to call on that basis. We've got the live chat here in the YouTube, which Andrew and Luke are blowing up as we speak. And so look, we have all these different means. Then we have the Facebook group where we do conversations between shows. And what we need to start curating is this community where we can get all the we can get all of our different conversations together, all our interests and all our expertise, and we can come and share in the blockchain think tank in the New Athens all of these different competencies. And so whether it's PR, whether it's music, or both, or current affairs, then we can have different kinds of commentary on different kinds of content. So what we're going to be showing you, one thing, one of our touchstones is Joe Rogan here, and as you can see that the set has that sort of feel. And what we're interested in, what he's done, that he's moving to Spotify, and we'll be talking about Spotify in another episode and why that's such a good move in terms of free speech and as a video platform for us all to use. But more importantly, one thing we're going to try and innovate here at the New Athens is to take some of the coruscating different topics and eclecticism of the conversation, and then clip those down into documentaries for you. So if we talk about architecture, or we talk about medicine, or we talk about tech, or we're talking about the history of art, then what we can do is we can take those elements of conversation and make a really sharp documentary for you about like a really top topic with guests, both phone in and live, and really show you the inside of some kind of honeycomb that you or I might not necessarily understand, but we can get an insight from experts, and then we can take people who intelligent commentators who are not in the field, and then see what they think and see what you think. So I really wanted to just mention that tonight, because we're going to be pushing that.
It can't be any fairer than that. She's already on her phone and you're halfway through your own bloody
Can we
podcast.
get a performance night added as well?
She's on a podcast and she's looking at another.
A performance. Why don't we do something together?
Why don't you sing your song?
No, why don't we do something?
please?
Because I can't play it, honey.
She's a little camera shy. She's got a terribly injured thumb. Through no fault of her own.
She's on my phone. She's on another podcast while she's
multitasking of the PR guru.
What's going on in Joe Rogan's world?
So, yeah, if you'd like to play something together, I'd love to.
Yeah, should we play something together? What should we play?
We've got some more guitars. If you want more guitars,
Do you know how to play that? No, I can't play that.
What about Ollie can play? Maybe I don't know
what should we play? We can play something. We can sing.
You've got knits as well, though.
Wait a second. Here we go.
But if I do, this.
Wait. Okay, we have not practiced that. Okay.
I don't know how long it goes,
Okay, well, let's try.
We haven't got the lyrics.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Oh, the summer.
Time is coming, and the leaves are sweetly blooming, and the wild mountain time rolls around the purple heaven. Will you go, laddie, go? Go together to both wild mountain side, around the blue heaven. Will you go, lassie, go? I will build my lava tower by yonder cool crystal fountain, and on it I will build all the flowers of the mountain. Will you go, laddie, go? If my true love be gone, well, I'll surely call to another. Over wild mountain time, all around the purple heaven. There we go, laddie, go. And we'll all just go together to a wild mountain time, all around the purple heaven. Where you go, sweet lassie, go. And we'll all just go together to a wild mountain time, all around the
Straight out of Compton, coming fucking niggas with attitude. There we go. Well done, Olivia. I
Right,
thought that was
who's
lovely,
Jaffa
mate.
Cake? My song is not about letting old people die. Bad policy. This isn't Logan's Run. Good film. I like Logan's Run.
Oh, nice one, Ollie. I enjoyed playing with you, man. It sounded lovely, mate.
Who's
nice and simple away chords and that, anyway, innit? Yeah. There's no fucking trickery in my songs, mate. There's no key change where Westlife stand up off the stool halfway through. No. You know, like every Westlife song, there's like, or any of them like boy bands, there's like a key change, isn't there? And it's where all boy bands stand up off the stool.
Oh God.
If it works, it works. Get the fucking program. Yeah, it works.
Well done, guys. That
Makes
was
a load of old ladies with female dryness wet.
What song did we used to do together, Lorenzo? You used to sing that song early one morning. Can you play that, darling?
Cocaine Blues.
Yeah, can you play Cocaine Blues?
Theme tune to Last at Summer Grave. Last at the Summer Grave.
Wine.
One foot in the
One
summer
foot in
grave.
one foot in the grave and Last at Summer Wine. Fucking congealed together on it. Jesus, I'm just gonna go for a cigarette while you slide me off now. Sorry, I didn't mean if I
No, thank you. Thank you for performing. That's wonderful. It was really good. So, I wanted to tell you that we're on tomorrow at 3 p.m. with Michael Misislatsky, Russian artist and gallerist. He's here. He lives in Berlin, in Potsdam, but he's here in London this weekend, and we have him on with hopefully with Philip Firsov and with Ed Mirza, and maybe Christopher Rob will be back. Who knows? To discuss contemporary art and culture. He's been a long-term critic of the New Athens, but he holds my feet to the fire. He holds our feet to the fire here, and so we're very glad that we have him in town. And we're hopefully going to get him on at 3 p.m. tomorrow, which will be exciting. Just to have more foreign correspondents, more people coming in from different sides of culture and of what we can bring with this breakaway civilization, with this new reality, this new generation we're trying to build towards, taking control of our lives, both in terms of money, of finance, of education, of democracy, of tech, of our health, both mental, physical, and so on, as we've discussed here tonight with Christabel about her experiences. One thing I wanted to move on to talk about, Christabel, that we've discussed before in great detail, is your experience.
No, I'm not talking about that.
Oh, okay. Oh, we'll save it for another time.
We'll have to save that.
We'll have to save it for another time. There's
next week's
an
episode.
intriguing topic that Chris and I have discussed in great detail, which we're going to do a deep dive on next
certainly
week.
Can, yeah.
In terms of bodily sovereignty. And in terms of the breakaway civilization that exists within the power structure, which we are being slowly eaten into with this matrix plan that we've been discussing in terms of the Chinese social credit system, which is then being brought over here now with the pandemic and with contact tracing, with the kind of tracking apps, which now you give your consent to, which then the recording they already do of you, they've now got the permission to have it. And they can have it in public.
I think we need a Me Too movement against the government and all of these tracking softwares.
Yes, exactly. We need what we need is bodily sovereignty in all sense. So we need the sovereignty of our location. So that's a private matter. And what the blockchain can do is can take that information that we have to put in the internet to gain some functions in the internet, and it can hide that behind a veil of anonymity, so that we can then control the address, like the Bitcoin address. We can then not be the person with the bank account. We can have a reputation which we trade on, and then we can take a step back from our identity and say, this is an identity which you can trade with, but it's not necessarily the person, it's the reputation of the person that is valid. And so like eBay, like as we saw at the start with the eBay and Amazon star rating systems for sellers and buyers. So it was, you see, with PayPal, which is, of course, Elon Musk, and we got the Tesla and so on, which has come out of that. What was very positive about eBay and Amazon is it got us into the idea of this democratized, decentralized reputation system of, you don't need to trade with the person who you know, or even with a shop where you can like sue the company. You just need to work out, has this person had 1,000 good reviews, 5 stars? And so this is what blockchain is really working on. This idea that you can then abstract a reputation from a person and then just trade with their reputation. The person can still remain private.
So it's not a state-sanctioned reputation.
Yes, it's a peer-to-peer democratic reputation between people. And so what you start seeing is people will give validity to one another's trade, or whether it's in ideas or money or goods and so on, or expertise and professionalism, that's not then externally validated, but it's mutually validated. Anyways, that's one aspect of this constitution we're building. And what we're going to be releasing soon, and what I wanted to mention, is we're going to be releasing the New Athens Constitution, which is a means by which we can all become blockchain citizens, and we can start determining for ourselves which of these permissions we want to give to the state, which ones we want to validate amongst ourselves, and which ones we can then validate based on different kinds of exchange of education and expertise of experts in different fields who've spent a lot of time working out how to manage certain skill sets, and we can exchange that skill set here at the New Athens. And so that's part of our tech accelerator, is this notion that we can then take all these skills, whether it's Christabel in PR or cultivating a cultural moment in the zeitgeist, whether it's our Bitcoin coders, whether it's people who are in accounting or law or finance, who we can then start building new kinds of contracts with, to instantiate some of these freedoms that we're looking into. And so what we're trying to bring together is this skill exchange of people who've spent a lot of time getting good at something. And this tonight, I think we've shown, there's different kind of filtration of live music and talking about the current affairs that you've tapped into with your song. And so, that's where we're at. We're always trying to improve the infrastructure here. And thank you, Christabel, for coming.
Thank you very much.
And participating with Rob in a little jam session, something the little bohemian basement tapes, literally basement tapes, by the way, in the bunker. And so from Christabel Milbank Media, singer-songwriter extraordinaire and cultural maven, we've had a great time. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And that's all from me, Lorenzo Mesut, founder of the New Athens, the blockchain think tank. Please share out this channel and our stream. Please if you like what we do, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click on the bell and get notifications, because apparently that's an issue. And we will bring you more infrastructure soon with more people, starting from tomorrow with 3 p.m. with Michael Mizoslavsky and the artists. Come in, Rob, and say good night.
Good night, everybody.
You've got to go on a camera. So
I look like I'm dressed like Dennis Penny. So.
He's one of our idols.
Sleep under a car, man. That's Amelia fancy.
So thank you guys.
By the way.
Thank you guys for coming in and giving such a great musical rendition and chatting about what's happening right now in the world. And we will see you all tomorrow.
Big wave
in the meantime, we'll be posting in the Facebook group, the facebook.com/groups/the New Athens. I'll leave the link in the show notes. We talk and have debate there between shows, and then we filter that in. Please call in tomorrow and from now on Zoom and on WhatsApp. We've got video calling functionality, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you so much.
Well played.
Bye.
Well played, Ollie. Bang on that. Joe, have fun.